Mr. Chancellor, I am delighted to present to you Zita Cobb, a social entrepreneur with a mission. Like everyone here this evening, Zita Cobb has a story, and hers is particularly remarkable and inspiring. Home for Zita is Fogo Island, a ruggedly beautiful, spirited location off the northeast coast of Newfoundland that musician Alan Doyle refers to as salty Narnia. Touted as one of the four corners of the world by the Flat Earth Society, Fogo, until quite recently, was a world apart, accessible only by boat or ferry. Although born in the second half of the 20th century, Zita grew up one of 7 children in an isolated 19th century society, but surrounded by resourceful, creative, and caring people rooted in that spectacular place. The collapse of the Newfoundland cod fishery, unfolding during her youth, had immense impact on communities like Fogo, and Zita determined that she would further her education in business to better understand world forces that could result in such devastation. Following university, she had a very successful business career and was perhaps best known as a senior executive in the fiber optics industry. Her travels and global exposure taught her that endless small communities were facing similar despair as her home of Fogo Island, and she decided to use her resources and her education to make a difference. Returning to Fogo in 2001, she established with 2 brothers the Shorefast Foundation as a vehicle to spearhead change. With community and other partners, the idea and, indeed, the reality of an economy based on the gift of place, the resourcefulness and creativity of its inhabitants, and a profound natural hospitality have emerged under Zita's catalytic leadership. The renowned Fogo Island Inn, which incidentally should be high on everyone's list of places to visit, is truly a big idea, but one that fits brilliantly with the environment and the integral artistry of the community. With its bold yet historically connected design, created by architect Todd Saunders, McGill alumnus and Newfoundland native, as well as with its environmentally sustainable features and furniture and furnishings made by hand in the community, the inn draws global travelers seeking a genuine yet profound experience. Artist studios and residency programs extend the natural artistry of the place and people and make Fogo an international destination of choice. Run by a board that includes community members and with proceeds that go back to building the community, the enterprise uses a business model with social outcomes. Best of all, Zita is a tireless advocate of this model and this approach of leveraging philanthropy and communal self-knowledge into sustainability. She speaks widely and has been much celebrated, and we are truly honored that she is with us here today to accept this award. It is particularly fitting that this award be given at the convocation ceremony for the School of Continuing Studies, as there are many crossovers in the values that drive Zita and those that are vital to continuing studies, including a profound respect for the culture and knowledge that others bring to an enterprise, a desire to provide opportunities for individuals, organizations, and communities to learn and thrive, and a deep respect for the proverb, "Give a man a fish and he will eat for a day, teach him how to fish and he will eat for a lifetime." Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Zita Cobb, that you may confer upon her the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa.
I now call upon Dr. Zita Cobb to address convocation. Dr. Cobb.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chancellor Meehan, Principal and Vice Chancellor Fortier, Dean Potter, members of the Platform Party, proud families and friends, and most of all, the graduating class of 2016, thank you for having me here with you and for awarding me this honor. I am very proud to be standing here among you. I am pleased to accept this honorary degree from McGill in recognition of our efforts to help secure a resilient and cultural and economic future for Fogo Island. Though I am only 57 years old, I have really lived in 3 centuries, and I'm not a vampire. Until I was 10, I lived in the 19th century. Fogo Island was an inshore fishing community off the northeast coast of Newfoundland, far away from far away. Growing up, we had no running water, no electricity, and like many of their generation, our parents couldn't read or write. We fished on the North Atlantic in small wooden boats that we built ourselves. It was a whole life lived in the ebb and flow of each of our 7 seasons. In modern parlance, you'd say we were a non-capital accumulating society. It was a wonderful childhood lived in a vibrant, supportive community. In the late 1960s, when I was 9 years old, the worst of 20th century industrialization came crashing down upon us. Enormous industrial ships from around the world began fishing in sight of our shores, despite an ostensible 12-mile fishing limit. It didn't take very long before all the fish were gone, and with them, our centuries-old livelihood. One day, our father came home with only 1 fish. Our community was in great peril. I left in 1975 to attend Carleton University in Ottawa, and at the same time, my parents decided they had no choice but to let go of their hold on home. My father, mother, and youngest brother, Tony, moved to Toronto. My father always reminded us that it wasn't the fish that let us down. I studied business to try and understand what ideology, what system had led people to catch almost every last fish. Trying to understand that question has shaped my life. My career in technology was firmly rooted in the 21st century. I was exceptionally fortunate to find myself in the fiber optics industry at exactly the right time. My career took me all over the world, but Fogo Island stayed with me. I visited as often as I could over the years. It was very easy to see that home was becoming less and less. Like many remote communities, Fogo Island, this many-storied, culturally rich, and much-loved place, was fading. Young people were moving away to find employment, and it was deeply painful to watch our traditional knowledge disappearing with every funeral. Through the efforts of the locally owned fishing cooperative, we were fortunate to develop a new kind of fishery after the loss of the cod by adapting to other species like crab and shrimp. The fishery is essential to Fogo Island because going out to fish on the North Atlantic is how we know who we are. But on its own, it is not sufficient to creating a vibrant and diverse economy. After retiring from a career at JDS Uniphase in the early 2000s, my brothers Tony, Alan, and I started the Shorefast Foundation as a means to help Fogo Islanders hold on to their place, to hold on to home. We needed to find a way, a 21st century way, for Fogo Island to be itself, but also to be relevant and to belong to an increasingly globalized world. Every person and every community has specific failings, and every person and every community has specific gifts. We approached our foundation work by focusing on our Fogo Island gifts, by asking and answering the questions of asset-based community development. What do we know? What do we have? What do we love? What do we miss? And what can we do about it? Our goal was to use those gifts to help develop the economy on Fogo Island, while at the same time holding on to the culture and the ways of knowing that make Fogo Island unique and irreplaceable. We were very much inspired by what is known as the Fogo process, a participatory film process led by the National Film Board and Memorial University that saw Montreal-based filmmaker Colin Lowe create 27 powerful films in the late 1960s. His art, these films, catalyzed Fogo Islanders to find a path forward and avoid the dreaded resettlement program that had been put in place after the collapse of the inshore fishery. Colin Lowe's work taught us the power of art to see, the power of art to see the world underneath the world, and the power of art to make change. So we started our Shorefast work with art by creating an organization called Fogo Island Arts, which has become an internationally recognized artist-in-residence program. As Dean Potter said, we provided the financial capital for a micro-lending fund, as well as the capital to launch 3 new businesses on Fogo Island. We created an inn because Fogo Islanders are culturally predisposed to profound hospitality. We backed ourselves into a furniture business because we filled the inn with meaningful and lovable objects that were made by Fogo Islanders. And we started a fish marketing business to create proper markets for the now returning cod. These are all social businesses, which mean that when they start to generate surpluses, those surpluses will be returned to Shorefast, the charity, and thus reinvested in the community. There is no private gain. Since I first read his work when I was in university, I have been guided by E.F. Schumacher's words. Nature and culture are the 2 great garments of human life, and business and technology are the 2 great tools that can and should serve them. My JDS boss, Joseph Strauss, who is here today, used to say, the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. Nature and culture are the most important things. They are critical to innovation, critical to our economic well-being, critical to our human ability to make meaning, and critical to living with a sense of wonder and joy. We are deep believers in community. We believe it is the job of business and technology to serve community. We also believe in the power of architecture and design. In our projects, we have used architecture to orient ourselves and to help knit the past into the present and to provide a springboard for the future. Thoughtful architecture can do that. By using business, architecture, and technology as servants of place, we are finding new ways to be relevant, new ways to belong to the world. We have learned that belonging is not a static destination. It is a journey, and it is a journey without maps. Every community, every company, and every person is on this same journey, the journey of figuring out how to belong. It's definitely not easy, especially now that we live in a so-called VUCA world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. As graduates, you are on this same journey. When I left Fogo Island to come to Ottawa, I was terrified at having to figure out how to belong all over again. I felt I was in danger of falling out of my own story. I felt anxiety about my own adequacy. But even though I had been separated from home from my original place, I still took strength and orientation from it. Those roots gave me courage and perspective. This process of trying to hold on to ourselves, to where we were raised, where we were formed, while weaving ourselves into the fabric of a new home, a new story, and a new community, requires everyday work. It requires constant and active balancing, navigating the space between where we've been and where we are going, with a keen eye on where we are. We are told to follow our passions, but it's not always obvious how to find our passions. It surely doesn't come from a perch on a comfortable chair, or comfortable anything, for that matter. Passion comes from action, not the other way around. Finding our passions, finding our purpose, boils down to finding those one or two things that are bigger than ourselves. That's where community comes in. Participating meaningfully in community is a direct path to finding our passions and finding ourselves. It begins with getting out and joining in with all of our hearts. As I see it, nothing of meaning or consequence has ever been accomplished by a half-hearted effort. As we think about what we do, how we work, and how we use our lives, let's hold on to the words of Jane Addams, who in 1931 became the second woman to win the Nobel Prize. She said, "The good we secure for ourselves is precarious and uncertain unless it is secured for all of us and incorporated into our common life." Everyone here has a special story, special failings, and special gifts. And everyone here can make a meaningful contribution to securing good for all of us and incorporating it into our common life. I wish you the very best from here. I commend you for focusing on your gifts and for the tenaciousness and action that has gotten you here today. I wish for you a life that is shaped by your gifts and informed by your failings. Use all of your ways of knowing to pay attention. Spend time outside, bend down to the natural world, lead with your whole heart. Pay close attention to what is going on in the world, belong to a real, living community, and give of yourself to building community and creating belonging. Push for a world where the real and the ideal can exist in harmony. Remember that positive beats negative every time. Adjust your course as often as you need to, but always be sure to walk upright. I will end with a poem from New Zealand poet Glenn Colquhoun that tells us exactly how to do that. The art of walking upright is the art of using both feet. One is for holding on, and one is for reaching out. Congratulations to all of you. Bonne chance à tous. Merci beaucoup.